Hi, my name is Ellen. I work here in our Williston Garden Center at Gardener Supply in the greenhouse, and today I'm going to talk about watering houseplants. So this is the biggest thing I talk with folks about in the greenhouse that contributes to success of your houseplants. And people have a lot of kind of stress and fear around how to water. They're really afraid to overwater and all that kind of thing. So two really simple things that I'm going to break down that I see the most often. One is that giving a lot more time in between waterings for your plants to dry out. And the second piece is really using a good amount of water when you do water your plants. There's this misconception that plants drink like we do. So people are giving their plants lots of little sips of water. Oh, it's been a couple days, it needs a drink. I'll put in a little cup of water, but really what that's doing is keeping the soil constantly wet. So most plants are adapted to, in nature, surviving some drought. So they're usually a lot happier to dry out almost completely between waterings than having lots of little sips of water. So your goal between waterings is to almost let the soil be completely dry. And for that to happen, I look for cues from the plants. So one indicator that you can use is the color of the soil. And when soil is dry, it has this kind of gray, brown, dusty color. So that's a really good indicator that it's time for a drink. So peace lilies are super dramatic. They're going to show you when they're thirsty by wilting really dramatically like this. So this would be a good sign that it's ready for a drink. And this is what the soil will look like when it doesn't need a drink and it's nice and hydrated. It has this dark chocolate brown color. And you can actually feel a little bit of the dampness in the soil as well. And then the other thing is the weight of the pot. So if you lift up on the pot and it's nice and light, that means it's time for a drink. Versus this plant over here, that's fairly heavy, and when you look at the leaves, they're nice and perky. So this one does not need a drink. The other piece that I find that we run into with watering is that people aren't giving their plants enough water when they're actually dry. Usually when I'm talking to them, they're afraid to give their plant too much water at once. So usually they end up giving their plant a cup or a little sip of water, just enough because they're terrified to overwater. But the truth is if you have a pot that has good drainage, it's really hard to overwater in one sitting. And actually, if you're giving it a small amount of water, you're not giving it enough of a drink. So for example, with this peace lily that's super dry to the point of wilting, if you were just to give it a cup of water, most of that water is going to go straight through the pot. You can see here on the sides, especially in turning it around, that it didn't nearly get to all of the pot. So actually when you water, you want to water with the goal of really saturating all of the soil. So you want to get around all the edges of the pot, let it soak through a little bit. And really what I want you to focus on is how much water I'm giving this plant. And because it's all draining out the bottom, it's not considered overwatering. And actually, when the soil is really dry, it needs this much moisture to rehydrate. And I'll probably hit it one more time for good measure. All right, so as you can see, I gave that plant a ton of water because it drained out the bottom. It wasn't overwatering. So hopefully your big two take-homes from this is really letting your plants dry between waterings, making sure and checking that they're really dry before you go ahead and water them, and then when they are dry, giving them a really good drink. So hopefully this helps in your plant care, and you can take home some tips for watering your houseplants.